How can you live somewhat of a normal life after experiencing a spiritual awakening? That's a question I ask myself all the time. When I had my spiritual awakening, that wasn't a choice. I didn't decide one day to become spiritual. I literally was pulled out of my body. I was pulled out of my body in such an amazing way that I had a rush of high frequency energy coming through me. I started to ground my divine essence, my divine soul, had answers to questions moving through me. All sorts of things were happening. This was an experience that happened. It was my time. My DNA was ready to activate, to reconnect me on a conscious level with my multidimensional aspects. Now, once you touch that energy and have that experience, everything else in life kind of loses a little bit of its luster. It's very challenging to move on in life and find that energy and that passion when it comes to doing things that you were so accustomed to doing before that. The drive just to be successful and to work, to whatever it may be, could be relationships, all sorts of things. Everything kind of starts to lose its luster a little bit because the ego now compares everything that's happening out in your reality to that one experience. And that's what I want to talk about in this video. How do we recenter ourselves, realign ourselves, and move forward with a completely new way of living life that is outside of the box, those limiting beliefs, that programming that we maybe were living our life in up until that point. My spiritual awakening was a complete 180 moment. Again, something I did not expect. Just bam, in a flash of an instant, life completely changed. Now, after I awakened, I had a couple of years of just experiencing all of my multidimensionalness. It was absolutely incredible. I had deceased relatives. I had ET guides coming forward. My main guide, my higher self, all sorts of incredible stuff. And guys, this was a daily thing. So it's almost like life was kind of put on hold at the moment. And I started focusing on these new aspects of me that were landing here. And that happened for a period of a couple of years. Then all of a sudden, things started to quiet down. Now, this was after I lost both my parents. Things started to return more to an externally focused reality. And that's when things really started to get difficult. Now, a lot of people call that the dark night of the soul, and that could last for many, many years. Now, I hit that period and started to go inward because as I looked outside in my reality, I didn't have a whole lot of excitement. In fact, nothing that my mind could conjure up really lit me up inside. And when you think about the experience that I had, how could anything compare to that? If you've gone through an awakening type experience like I did, you know that deep down, there is nothing that can compare to that. And that really kind of can get you down. And we end up in a big, long, dark night of the soul. Now, my connection remained, but I had to work for it. Why? Why did it become more difficult? Well, I'm going to explain that right now. When I first awakened and my guide stepped forward, I had this amazing high frequency energy at my disposal. I was able to experience it. I became aware of it. My body was operating at a lower frequency. It was more of a 3D type frequency. I was worried, working in my practice and very much focused on external types of events, normal life events, the things that society and our belief system says we should be really focused on. So this magic comes forward and I have this huge polarity. I have this incredibly high frequency multidimensional energy and I have my life down here. I've got high frequency, lower frequency, big spread in between. It felt magical because I was able to experience the breadth of that polarity. Now, we get into starting to work with that energy. And as that high frequency light moves through, we start getting triggered, we start feeling, we start releasing density. That's what causes this high frequency light to come through. Our DNA activates, density is released, and we start the healing process. I got into energy healing and I started working through that. And as I did that, the frequency of my physical body started to rise. Okay. And because of that, the polarity between what I was now aware of and my body, the polarity became less and less. So therefore, the experiences were not as in my face. I actually started to integrate that energy and they became a part of me. So I wasn't able to experience the magic in the way I was before, right after I awakened. And that is a normal part of the process. A lot of times we feel like we've lost it. We don't have that connection anymore. We can't have those experiences anymore. Well, the reason we feel that way is because they're not out here anymore. They're in here. Our body has risen in frequency, okay, and have gotten closer to that source energy. So we don't have that polarity anymore. It's not as in your face, which means we need to bring awareness to that aspect of us to really get in and feel it, because it doesn't just appear. Okay. So I started working through that and realized that everything that was out here was now in here. And I was able to communicate with my guides, but in a different way. It wasn't all in my face, them getting my attention using the field so much to do that. And again, when we have this big polarity, it's easy to do. When that polarity shrinks and there's not as big of a gap between where your body is and that higher frequency light, say 5D, if you want to use that for this reference, we tend to lose it in the background. Okay, so we really got to remember and get back in and actively use our awareness to bring that forward. So that's what I started to do. And I realized that everything's still there. It's just there in a different way. And I can access it in a different way. And most of the time, that just comes with a shift in my thought, remembering who I am, because it's here now. It's not out there. So that happened. That's part of that process. And things do begin to change. But what we don't realize is that our external reality is changing too. The reflection of that increased frequency, the increase in the vibration of our body starts to reflect out in the field. And things start to shift a little bit. And things start to, in a subtle way, start to go more in alignment with our purpose for being here. And that is key. Something I want you to realize, that when you work on yourself inside, that will reflect outside. And a lot of times these are little baby steps. So the subtleties of the change, it's very subtle changes externally in your reality. But just know that the more you work inside, the more it's going to start to reflect outside. And as we rise in frequency, that time gap between the adjustment in the frequency and the materialization or manifestation in the external world gets shorter and shorter. Okay. As we're climbing up that frequency ladder, time and space kind of start to fold in on each other and collapse. So that's what's happening. So how do we work with this? How do we live life after having that experience, seeming to lose it at some point, realizing we've integrated it, and now we're more in control because we're operating at a higher frequency level? How do we live life going forward when nothing seems to light us up like it did when we first had those magical multidimensional experiences? Well, my guides over the years have told me this, and I've kind of veered away from it and forgotten, and I'm now just bringing awareness back to it. It is very important to bring that magic, the feeling you had when you were experiencing that magic in such a grand way, like I was. Go back to that feeling, go back to that connection, and know that none of that is lost. But you need to bring that forward in everything that you do. The most mundane task, I don't care if it's brushing your teeth, paying a bill, driving to work, going to the grocery store, whatever it is, bring that magic forward, the feeling of that magic. We are here to experience that magic, to reconnect with ourselves and bring it forward into the field. Now, the mind wants to get depressed about it. I'm not experiencing all that stuff anymore. Going to the store, doing these things. What kind of magic? That's bogus. That's BS compared to the magic that I once experienced. It's just not going to do it for me. That's where we as conscious creators need to bring that magic forward. We need to start experiencing this time-space reality from that perspective, from the high frequency perspective, the magic that you had when you had or experienced that spiritual awakening. And with me, it was that moment popping out. And the few years after that, where I had craft coming, I had all sorts of amazing, amazing stuff. As we integrate that energy, it becomes available for us. We've done the healing work. We've created space in the body. We've grounded and integrated a lot of that high frequency light. Don't necessarily feel it because our senses are telling us things are all the same outside, all looks the same. Sometimes things look crappy politically, whatever's happening by you, weather-wise. We've got that incredible, powerful hurricane right now here in Florida, in the United States, in Florida. Whatever that reality looks like for you, know that you have integrated your high frequency light, and everything you're experiencing outside is just a reflection of the density that is there for you to become aware of, so that you could heal more, create more space, and ground more of your higher self. Okay, so the key is to, whatever you're doing to bring the magic forward, to get into that frequency, be incredibly compassionate and grateful for those experiences that you had. We have the ability to have a memory of it, right? We remember that magic. Again, I still am in communication with my guides, but it's a very different way. I don't have that polarity now that I did back then. So it doesn't have the grandiose effect as it did, because I've done it so much now. But yet I want to go back to those experiences. I want to fully feel them and remember them and bring that energy forward in everything I do. That is us grounding, anchoring our light, getting into the body, grounding it into Gaia, and making a conscious choice to bring those frequencies forward into the field, so that we can have an electromagnetic effect on this grid, on this reality that everyone's perceiving. That makes others available to receive that energy as well. So no matter what it is, you got to make a phone call to customer service somewhere. You're having an issue with something, maybe your phone's not working, whatever it is. Bring that magic forward, bring that frequency forward, and fully feel that as you're interacting with another individual. If you're paying a bill, bring that frequency forward. Whatever it is, make that conscious choice, that intent to live life through the lens of your higher self, and funnel that divine energy out into the field. And the more of us that do that, that magic that we once experienced that was so incredible is going to return out in the field for millions to experience. And that is going to be an incredibly powerful and amazing time in human history. And it is so exciting. So thank you so much for listening. Subscribe to my channel if you have not already. Give this video a thumbs up. I greatly appreciate it. And share it if you know anyone that you think it can help. Thank you so much.